Great. All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Jamie Lusader, LCUSD CTO, and tonight I want to share some tips and tricks for our students in 7th through 12th grade. So first off, I want to make sure all of you know about Classlink. So can you post in the chat for me your familiarity with Classlink? So 1, if you're totally brand new to it, you don't know much about it. 3 is you're a pro. You've already watched my sessions on Classlink, or you're a student and you already know all about this. So 1, you're brand new. 3, you know a lot. And thanks Paul, Kelly, and Tom for the 2s. So wherever you are with Classlink, let me know so I get a gauge of how in depth to go. Great, thank you. Oh, and I was just looking at the attendees. I want to give a shout out to one of our students, Grace, who's joining us. Grace just got on to our Student Tech Council. So congrats, Grace, shout out to you. We're really excited to have you join. So for the parents and students that are listening, we have a Student Advisory Tech Council, and they'll be a little bit like my board of directors. And I'm going to share all the ideas and things we're doing with technology. They'll be able to advise me from the student perspective, and then they're going to help identify some real world problems at LCHS that they can work on. So thanks, Grace, for joining us. Awesome. Okay, so I've got notes from you of where you are with Classlink. Awesome. So let me give you just the kind of quick overview, and let me make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to read for everybody. Okay, so what I want to point out is getting to Classlink is super easy if you go to any of the school websites, but I'll start at the high school website. And we have up here the link right here. So this blue cloud is how you get to Classlink for our students. And you just click that, or you go to classlink.lcusd.net. And what I want to point out about Classlink is this is kind of like the one-stop hub for everything. This is what it looks like when you log in. You have this graphic interface, and it has all the different apps that the kids have access to. So our goal a couple of years ago is when we started seeing how many of our resources were moving online for the kids, we really wanted to make sure it was easy to get to. And so by going to Classlink, they have access to a lot of their textbooks, a lot of tools that students and teachers kind of use in class. And what's really nice about it is we can customize it per course, per grade level, per school, even down to the teacher level, what apps are visible for students. So Classlink is pretty amazing in that sense. Let me show you what it looks like live. And for our high school students and middle school students, one of the first things to troubleshoot is, I'm sorry, it didn't quite show. When you go to log in, I'll show you the help guide on this 1 second, because I want you to be able to see this is super important. When you log in, sometimes the sign in with Google button doesn't work. And that's the first thing I want to make sure everybody knows. So connect Classlink. And right now I'm on help.lcusd.net, which is our database of all different help guides and articles for students and families. Okay, so this is what I wasn't able to show you because I was already logged in. When you first get to Classlink, you see this page here. If you've never logged in before, you want to just hit sign in, and you'll just do your username and password. If you hit sign in with Google and it doesn't work, this is how you fix it. So I wanted to point that out, because some students or families are trying this for the first time and they're like, I can't get into Classlink. So let me link that article for you on the doc, just in case that's you. Connecting your Google account. I don't want any of you to get hung up if you're just trying this out for the first time. Okay, all right, that's there for you. So once you log in, you see this page, and I have tons of stuff on here because as an admin, I have way more apps, but this is essentially how it works. And a student will go to an app, for example, like My HRW. So this would be for our 7th and 8th grade families and students, and this is how they would get to their math classes. And then a lot of students are using Illuminate. So you can link right here to Illuminate to be able to take an assessment. So that's there for you. So again, think of this just as a springboard to launch right into all the tools. And one that I want to point out that we're going to look at live when we get down to the second page of all the tools is Paper. And this is our new online tutoring tool that is fantastic. And I bet Grace would also how much she loves it if I had her live on here with me now. Maybe Grace has something we can chat about for a future webinar if you want to join me. This tool is really great for studying, prepping for a test. And again, we'll go into more detail, but to get to it, it is here through Classlink. Okay, so, and sorry, one more thing that's kind of fun for those who are new. You can customize all of this so students can create folders and organize everything in Classlink. And to do that, you would just right click anything, and then you could do new folder, you can change your background, and you can also, over here in the top corner, under profile, you can change your image. Lots of things there, but essentially think of this as it's a password locker. So all the passwords and everything are stored in here for the kids to get to all of their stuff. So that's the big thing about Classlink. And then what is great now as we move to more of our online books, for our high school students, we have quite a lot. So 7-8 math, as I mentioned, LC math 1, 3, and 4. So that's algebra, algebra 2, and pre-calculus are in there. A lot of the world languages are now in there as well. 7-8 science, and then high school biology. So those are all available in there. So students, if you haven't checked out Classlink for your online textbooks, please try it. And if it's not working, you can put in a ticket at help.lcusd.net and we'll troubleshoot with you and make sure all of those are working. So that's a great resource. And just so everybody knows, our philosophy really is that we want to offer both the online and the physical textbooks, because just recognizing that we have different learners, there are a lot of accessibility features that are available in the online textbooks, but for some students, just reading through paper is a better fit for their brain. And there's research kind of showing both sides of that. So just know that our current plan is, if we do adopt, we try to adopt both. There is a current limitation on the 7-8 science, and that we're waiting for some updates to the textbook version before we would have that copy. So that's one that kind of breaks that pattern, but we do our best to try to ensure students have the option there. And then I see a question from Kelly. And then, yes, so right now this is students only, but it's on our roadmap to launch the parent side of this, because now we're recognizing there's so many tools and apps for parents and all the systems that are part of the LCUSD world that we hope this summer we'll roll it out. It was a past summer project, but pandemic took a little bit of priority. So we have that on our list for next year to really start looking at it. So Kathy, yes, if you want to see what Classlink looks like, I would encourage you just to have your student sign in. Something I would share as an option, if you look on my screen here, when I click this little icon, that's my name there, I can have multiple accounts signed in to Google, and then it's easy to switch into things. So that could be something, again, we recommend for younger students. You could sign into Google, and then when you open up Classlink, everything's already there saved. So just an idea if you wanted to have multiple accounts. So for example, you could have your student sign in and then everything's there and visible. So that's the best way to see it. But I would ask them to open it up and take you on a tour. They probably are using it for a lot of things. And then you'll just want to do a check to see if everything's working, if their textbooks are working and everything in. The other thing that's nice about Classlink is we have all of the Google tools are linked in a folder, the Google Apps folder. And this is how they can kind of get to everything. Not mandatory, because getting to Google things is pretty easy. You just go to mail.google.com or docs.google.com or classroom.google.com. If you start to remember those domain names and URLs, it's fast, but it is nice that everything's linked here so you know what tools are available to you. Okay, so that is Classlink. And again, it's just that hub for all things that the kids are being kind of asked to interact with or use during the day. And then troubleshooting note for this. So I mentioned that if you don't have your Google account connected, the login can be a little bit tricky. The other thing is there are extensions that students can download, and it is probably a little small on your screen, but I have all of these little icons up here. These are all different extensions that I've downloaded. There is one specifically for Classlink. So if students are using a personal computer at home that's not a Chromebook, and they may not be signed into the Chrome browser, then this extension will be missing and Classlink wouldn't work. So again, it's nice to just sign in to Google to get started. So if I go to google.com, then over here, I'm already signed in, but there would be a sign in button to Google. And once you sign in, then you get these boxes and all of your Google stuff shows up. And then again, if you're signing in with your school account, all your extensions connected to your account sign in with you, and which is really nice. So that's something to think about. Now, then what you also want to remember is sometimes you can have a bad extension that breaks things. And I'll be talking about that when we get down to page 2. Okay, so that's Classlink. Again, that's the starting place for all of our resources and everything related to tools for the students. We also have an app library. So students and parents, if you want to check out what else you have as an option, you can look here. We'll have the LCUSD library, and we have some other apps in here that might be of interest to you. If there are things that you would like to add to your Classlink that would be helpful for you as a student, or family, as you know, would be something good for your kids, just put in a ticket and then we can add them. You'll notice Mrs. Hamrick and Mrs. Harder and Mrs. Lee, 3 of our awesome PCR teachers, requested that their websites be in there. So we can add things in here to help students and families. So just know that that's available as a tool. That's the app library. And then there's also this, I'm not sure if we have this add your own app turned on for students, but we may do that for 712 students so they could add their own. Okay, so that's Classlink and all the resources. If you have any questions or anything else that I could answer about that, go ahead and post in the chat. And then we're going to transition into our Google tools, because I think this is where I have some suggestions that are going to really help our students. And just pausing for a second, I know a few more people came in since I started. I'm reposting the document that I'm on right now. So thanks to everyone joining tonight. I want to make sure you have a copy of what I'm showing on the screen right now. So I just linked that for you in the chat. So thank you. So if you want to jump onto that, you can have it. Okay, great. Okay, let's talk about Google Classroom. Okay, so we had no idea, like, trying to plan for distance learning and everything. You just never know what direction it's going to go. So I'm grateful that we had Google Classroom and we had a lot of adoption by teachers already going in to this tool. And there are a couple things I want to teach you tonight to make this an even better experience for you. So one of the things really is Google is going to be notifications. So I'm going to demo that for you. And then we'll also do a little tour. So just so I gauge again how much you know, can you post in the chat for me a 1 if you're brand new to Google Classroom, or a 3 if you're totally an expert. And of course, 2 in the middle is fine. So 1, you don't know much. 3, you're a pro. So anything along those lines, just so I get a sense of how far to go in depth. Great, thank you. And I also want to let you know that I do have a longer video just on Google Classroom. So I see we have a couple 3s here, a lot of 1s and 2s. So making sure that you get what you need. I'll post a link. I'll add it in just a minute right to this doc of my longer video on Google Classroom. But let me show you the basics and my tips about notifications, because even the pros, I think, are going to want to see this. Okay, so when you first log in, it's classroom.google.com. You can also, as I showed you, our school websites, you can go right here. And relating back to one of our earlier questions from the parent, Classroom is just for students to log in, but parents can sign up occasionally for Guardian summaries. So some teachers have that turned on where you can get a weekly summary of what's going on in Classroom. So let me show you what it looks like when students first log in, just to give everybody the baseline, and then I'll go into some advanced features. So when you first log in, you'll see all your classes here. So anything that you're a part of. So I have some that I'm a teacher of and some that I'm a student of. So let me show you the one that I'm a student in so it looks familiar. So this is Mrs. Daly's practice class. Across the top, I have stream, classwork, and people. Now, what can be different teacher to teacher is how they use the stream page. Some of them may have something that says a new assignment was posted, and you'll see that kind of going down the feed anytime there's a new assignment. And it can get a little cluttered and a lot of stuff there. Other teachers might just post announcements there only. So that's where you'll see some differences in terms of style. But what is pretty uniform is a classwork page does house everything. So that's something to take note. You can always click here to see everything that's due. And that would be my tip for all students. Don't always rely just on the stream page, just to say, oh, is there something new? Am I missing anything? Always go to classwork and take a look. Now, teachers can organize it very differently. And so let me show you an example of one that I have. that I have some students in with me. So for this one, I was organizing by kind of week and then kind of a content area. So you might see some of your teachers doing this where you can kind of see everything by week. And then students, anything that's missing is this bright color. If you've submitted things, then it's going to be grayed out. So you kind of know what's due. But what I love about some new features for students is this is what students will see down here. See, I see how I have teaching because those are the ones that I'm the teacher of, but here's one that I'm a student of. And so I'm down here, I have Mrs. Staley's practice class. So something that's a little bit newer for students is you can click on this to-do list and it will show you all your assignments and due dates, which is amazing to have one place for all your classes to see everything that's due. So let me point that out again. So I'm back on this. I clicked on the 3 lines over here on the left. I scroll down to do. For most students, it's going to be right here at the top for you. You click on to do, and then you see everything. And you might have to open up some of the past weeks to see everything, but it's there for you. You can also use this drop down to choose which class if you wanted to look at one specifically. So I love that. The other thing that you may not use or know about is the calendar. You might have just glossed over this. When you click on calendar, this shows you all your classes that you're a part of and everything that's due, and you'll see it show up kind of on here. So I only have one class that is assigning content, but students, you might see a lot of things on here, which is just super helpful to kind of plan your week and see what your workload is going to be like. So I recommend checking out those 2 features. That's the to-do list and the calendar to get your due dates. And then most important to help make your life better is looking at your notifications. And that, again, if I start from the place that most of you are familiar, I'm going to click on the 3 dots. Oh, and note that these are here on this main page too. To do is for students and calendar. The 3 dots, I'm going to go down to settings. And this is where you want to really customize your notifications, because right now, especially, email is pretty critical. You know, you've got office hours with your teachers, but a lot of you might be emailing teachers. So just know that setting up your notifications is helpful, because I've seen some of the students Gmail and it's just full of classroom notifications, so that it makes it nearly impossible to use that tool. So what I recommend is you'll see this class notification kind of button down here at the bottom. Now, certain classes, you may not worry about any of the notifications, so you can just turn them off altogether. But what I like to do is really customize overall that, yes, I want to get notifications, but what I'm most interested in is if somebody makes a private comment, because the only way to know that you got one is through this email, or you can say, I want to get an email every time a teacher adds an assignment. Again, if that's your workflow, awesome, but I think that might be a little too much. You may want to get a notification when your work is returned. I think that one's pretty cool. And then I don't know if you'd want due date reminders, but again, review each of these options, and then you can really customize how you get notifications for your classes. And then something else, if you haven't, you can always leave your old classes and archive them. So again, you would click the 3 dots here, and then you could hit archive. I just want to make sure you know that everything lives in Google Drive, even if you archive a class. Don't do this with your new ones, because that will be a pain, but any of the older ones that you're still a part of, you can archive them, and all your work lives in Google Drive. You'll have a classroom folder that has every single class you've ever been in and all your work from that class. So it stays with you. Okay, let me pause there, because I've shared a lot about Google Classroom. Questions or comments, and specifically what I covered for students was using the to-do button to see all of your assignments, checking out the calendar, and then organizing your notifications. So those were my big ideas for Google Classroom. So questions or comments, or students, since I know some of you are on here, if you have tips to share of how you've made Google Classroom work for you, you can feel free to post in the chat and let us know. And then while you're thinking on that, we'll move over to thinking about Gmail, because that I think is what I was really hinting at in terms of when you get your classroom notifications set up, Gmail works so much better. And I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like on another screen. Just one second. There we go. Okay, so let me make sure I've got the chat open again. Sorry, every time I move a window, everything starts to move. Okay, so I'm going to transition into talking about Gmail, because when I was telling you about Google Classroom notifications, again, I want to make the point that a lot of people say that email is something that students don't use. You know, it's not something that's in their world. And I want to argue on that just a little bit, that when you look at the Gmail box that I'm showing you, this is what our kids see. And I think this is why they don't use their mail as effectively as they could. So this is one of our demo accounts. This is Peter Pan's account, and he's enrolled in a lot of classes. This is a day, a few days of email, all from Google Classroom. So you can just see it's all these new assignments were added, new materials. So again, if this is helpful for you to know when everything's kind of coming in, awesome. But for me as a student, this would be too much. So I would want to turn all of these off and just get a few notifications. So you have a couple options. If you do this on the Google Classroom side, fantastic. Everything is going to be, just the ones you choose. But let's say you want to keep all of these coming into your inbox. You just want to look at them when you're ready, and you really don't want them kind of filling up here. So you can create a rule, which I think is pretty cool. It's called a filter, and it will take everything out of your inbox and put it in its own folder. So I'll show you how that works. And then I have a link on the doc. The beginning guides and kind of advanced tips there will show you this again, but just so you know how this works, I can show you once. You click on any email, and then you would click this label button. And so I would go create new, and I would just call this classroom, and I would hit create. And so what you see right here is I have this new label on this called classroom, and I can go one step even further. So if I now add a filter, I'm going to say anything from Google Classroom. So it's going to be from @googleclassroom.com is going to be a filter. I'm going to hit create, and I'm going to have it skip the inbox. So it doesn't even go in there. I'm going to have it label as classroom, and I'm going to create the filter. And again, there's tons of videos on this, so you don't have to remember the steps that I'm doing right now. I just want to show you that this exists. So now I have this folder over here called Classroom, and that one is in there. Any new email that comes in from Google Classroom is going to skip my inbox and go right in there. So if I wanted to, for example, just move all of these over, I can click this Move to Classroom. And then now look over here in my classroom folder, all 17 are here. Now, what's nice about this is because it isn't marking them as unread, when I open up my mail, I'm like, oh, I have 17 messages in Classroom. Let me just scan this really quickly. And you know that it's all Google Classroom. And so you could quickly see, okay, it's an announcement, it's an assignment. Oh, I got something graded back. You can kind of scan everything that's here versus notice in that jumble, there's 2 emails from me that would easily get missed. One is inviting students to our office hours for tech support. One is inviting them to a parent checkup. In the middle here, there's a Google alert saying somebody logged into my account. So there could be some very important things in here that are really hidden by that. So the note for you on Gmail is I would recommend if you haven't been using it or it's full, like thousands of messages, click this button up here, and then you can archive everything and just start fresh. And what's great about Gmail is everything is available in search. So I can go here to all mail, and everything that I just moved still exists. It's not gone. It's just out of my inbox. And so I would encourage you to look at my tips on organizing your Gmail for students, and then just kind of pick a time and start fresh, get it all clean. And then that will really help. So fixing your notifications, and then maybe making a filter. Maybe that's better for you than configuring notifications because you want to see everything. But you can also do those filters for your teachers. So if, for example, let me go to my all mail. This is kind of more advanced, so I won't spend too much time on this, but I just want you to see it as a possibility. if I wanted to have everything that came from Mr. Davis, I could create a Mr. Davis folder and everything from him would come into here. And again, I could have my 6 classes all organized. So again, depending on your learning style and how organized you are, that might be awesome. For me personally, how I use this is I have a label called VIP, and anything that comes in from my boss gets a bright red label on it. And so when I'm overwhelmed with email, I can quickly see, oh, is something there from Miss Sinette? I better check on that and then get back to my work. So you can do all kinds of interesting things that it doesn't have to move it over to a folder. It could just come into your inbox with that cool label. So that, all those tips for you, I have under Gmail. There's a guide for beginnings, beginners. Let me fix that typo. Thank you. For beginners and some advanced tips. And what I just covered, I'll put in parentheses here, is labels and filters. And I would encourage you to go on YouTube and watch a couple videos to really get your email cleaned up so that it's useful, especially right now. I think that's why I want to stress this a little bit, is that during distance learning, you want to be able to communicate to your teacher and get something back. And then my final note on this is that there's something called an email charter. And this is just about being a kind person when you're asking for help or pointing out an error or any of those things that kind of happen in terms of interactions between students and teachers. This is just a reminder to be kind, presume positive intent, be clear, and consider your tone. So I wanted to share a quick story, and this is linked for you again, the email charter. I definitely recommend it as a read. There's some good tips to help get out of kind of the email slog that a lot of us are in. I had a student of about wow, I guess it would be like 10 years now because I've been in the tech department so long. But before tech department land, I was a high school teacher teaching English at LCHS. And I talked to my students about the importance of email and, saying the right things and being kind. And rather than just saying, dear Mrs. Lusader, you made a mistake in the grade book, please fix it. You can say it a little bit nicer. You can be polite. You can just say, how's your day going? Like there's little ways to just kind of humanize it a bit and not do so much tech speak. So I've had that chat with my students, just letting them know like the best way to email. And then, a teacher can open up an email after a long day and it can be amazing to see something polite from a student, or they get a complaint and it's really hard. So I just helped it kind of explore that with them. So I had a student who came back to me after my class, and she was taking classes at Glendale Community College. And she talked about how she tried to get into a class that was full. And the teacher said, absolutely not. I'm not adding anyone else. The class is full. You can't join. So she decided to write him an email. She was very polite. She explained everything. And he wrote back and he said this was the best email he had ever received from a student. And for that reason, he was adding her to the class. She went on to she took a lot of community college classes while in high school. She ended up graduating from UCLA at 19 because she was just that far ahead with her high school work. And again, I'm not saying that to put pressure on any students. I'm just saying that one email, if she hadn't gotten that class, it could have held her back from kind of the fast track that she was on. And maybe it would have taken her an extra semester to graduate. So email can make a huge difference. So I encourage you to check that out. Get your email under control, try to get it cleaned up, but also think about what it's like when you're writing to other people. Okay, so that's my spiel on email, and I just want to make sure you know that. Then we're going to move on to Google Drive, the next tool that is part of our Google ecosystem. And as I transition, I want to point out that search is such a powerful tool in Gmail and Drive. Again, it's Google, so all their platforms are built on search. So if I, archived all my messages, but I was looking for something, I can just search Jamie Lusader and it's going to pull up all the mail that was involved there. You can also go to this little drop-down caret and filter it even more. So I don't necessarily want it that it has the words Jamie Lusader. I want to know if it was from me. And I only want to see anything that had an attachment, because I remember this one thing my teacher sent me. I know there was an attachment. So I'm going to hit search. And again, I hadn't sent anything with an attachment here, so it shows up with nothing. But you can really get specific to help find things in your mail. So just know that search is something that's super, super helpful, and that's an option. And that is also what you're going to see in Google Drive. So my tip here for everyone is Google Drive can be a super unorganized, file cabinet. And that is okay because search is so good. But there are a couple things I wanted to point out for students to work on in terms of this, and that would be creating archive folders at the end of each year. So if you're in Google Drive and you just have so much work in here, notice I created a folder called Archive, and to do this, I went to New, and then I clicked Folder. And then I moved everything that was kind of this older stuff that I didn't really need. You can select a lot at once, and then you can drag and just move them into your folders. And so some of these are shared with me. So sometimes they don't always move, but most of the time it should work for you. Let's see this one. There we go. The ones that are shared, those are just shared with me. That's why they're listed here. But anything that doesn't have that little share icon, I can move. There we go. Move into that folder. Okay, so making an archive folder is my first tip for Google Drive. The other thing that I wanted to show that might be new for some students and families, if you have Google Drive, I think you might love this. Priority is something new that they added up here. And I've been really enjoying this school year because I can create something called a workspace. And then I put the things I'm using most often in here, because my default protocol was I would go to Google Drive and I would click on recent, and then I would see all the things that I've been working on before. Sorry if it's a little too small. All my documents here, and I would see what I had opened last, who was the owner, and I usually could find what I wanted. If it was really lost, I would change the view here to this photo view, and then sometimes seeing the thing I was looking for would help me find it. So again, that's another tip, is toggling between the list view and the picture view. But I love this idea of priority because I can create something called a workspace, and then I can put documents in here. So I'm going to hit view workspace. I'm going to hit add file. And let's see, I'm going to put in this drawing. I'm going to hit insert. And what this does is, so here's a typical day. I open up Google Drive. I'm like, oh, where's that file? Oh, that's right. I put everything that I'm working on right now in my October folder. And it just gives you that list. I think you can put 15 or so documents or items in here. And so I love this. So now I have workspaces for different things. So I have a tech support workspace, a project workspace. And when I open up Google Drive, I just go right there and grab the things that I'm working on most often. You could also do this by creating folders, but what I noticed is you end up having this super, super long list of folders, and it's just kind of one more thing to sort through. So I like workspaces for the things that I'm working on like right now in time, and then I archive the workspace. And it doesn't move things out of folders. They can live in here and here at the same time. So something new, something to play with. And then the priority folder also works on what was open today. So you can see like most recent. So folders are great, but workspace is a really cool new tool. The other thing you can do, again, Google gives you lots of options for customizing, is if you would like to use the starred folder, this works by, so let's say I'm working on this drawing. And once this opens there, oh, sorry, that was a Jamboard. Super fun. If you haven't tried out Jamboard, I encourage you. It's a collaborative whiteboard that you can use between kind of friends or teachers. Any document I have open, there's a little star here. So if I star this, I'll call this drawing practice so I can find it. It's another tool that now if I go to the starred folder, it's right here. So again, a lot of options. You just kind of have to choose the one that works for you. I've tried them all, and currently, a combination of folders and the priority workspaces are what I'm using most of the time. And then the last one is you have this shared with me, and this is anything that people might have sent you. And I want to close our Google Drive chat on the search. Again, super, super helpful because you can filter by type of document that you're looking for. And this is especially helpful for students that are up in the higher grades because they have so many documents. But I would say any 7th or 8th grader who's had a Google Drive the whole time they've been in LCUSD probably have a ton of stuff in here that could use organization. So I would encourage families and students to, set some time down to kind of just spend 10 minutes and kind of take a look and get it into shape by doing the archive folder trick or deciding what's the best way to kind of find things. So again, search is super great because you can just pick any document. And I know I worked on this in the last 7 days, and then I'm going to hit search and potentially find something. So that's really great. So again, that was search, the drop down, and then you could choose, oops, sorry. you can choose the type of thing you're looking for. So search is really great, especially if you know who kind of sent it to you or a part of the title. So if I type in Lcusd, again, you're going to see a bunch of things come up that are connected with me. Yeah, tons of things that I've been putting in this little demo account. The last thing with Google Drive that I wanted to share, again, my main focus for you is just like thinking about ways to be organized. This is the new binder right now. So being able to find your stuff and not have things lost is super helpful. There are a couple cool things that not everybody knows. If you go to docs.google.com, I wanted to point out that there are some awesome templates that students and families may not know about. So this isn't accessible through Google Drive. Now I'm looking at specifically just the docs part, and there's this thing called Template Gallery. And there are some Lacaniata ones that teachers have added for different things that we were doing, but then there's also general. And you're gonna see there are essay templates, there are report templates, business letters, which is nice, and resumes, super helpful. I've designed some really nice resumes out of here. Recipes, pet resume. I love that. That's fun. There's also project proposals, meeting notes. I use this template here for our tech department meetings, newsletters, brochures, really cool things are in here under templates. And so again, that is going to docs.google.com. And you can look at all the template galleries and then modify them. The other thing I love about going this direction is that you can also see only docs. If you're looking for that one file and for whatever reason you can't find it, this is my other way to kind of try to find that file that I lost. And this works for everything. So you can also go to slides.google.com, and there are some super great templates in slides as well. So you can go to template gallery and you can see a lot of things here. So different templates are in there. The other one I love, this is kind of bonus tip for templates, is Slides Carnival. This is just an external website that has really good PowerPoint and Google Slide templates, like really, really good. So I'm going to just show you some quick ones. Really beautiful. Again, you can use them for PowerPoint or Google Slides. So Slide Carnival, I will link that on the document for you so you have access to that so you don't forget. So that's just a fun thing. I'll put it here. Okay, so that's linked for you on the document now. Okay, so that is Google Drive. So a lot of things, but again, my main emphasis is clean up your Google Drive. That's the note for you on that one. Okay, now I want to show you, we've turned the corner. We've got about 18 minutes left, but I want to show you paper because I think this is so important for our students. So let me, while I set this up, if there are questions, please post in the chat anything about Google Drive that you want to know more about. But again, there's tons of YouTube videos on it. It's just something you got to decide how you want to stay organized and experiment, try a few, see what works for you. But next I want to show you paper and this tool for tutoring because I just think it's fantastic. Okay, and I lost the chat. 1 second, we bring that back up. Great. My participant list. Okay, and I noticed there's a couple more that joined since I got started. So I'm reposting the document just so you have it there if you want to follow along what I have on the screen for you. Okay, so paper.co. This is a new tool we have for this year. And let me just go right to it so you can see it. This is 24/7 tutoring. And what I am really excited about is that all of our 7-12 students, we have it down to 4th grade actually, but all of our 7th through 12th grade students now have access to high quality tutoring. And we've never had that before in our district. So I really think that that is amazing for all students to be able to use this. And the way it works is it's chat based. So students can log in anytime, day or night. They pick a tutor based on the class that they have or a personal subject of interest. So if you're interested in computer science, but you're not taking that class, you can still chat with a tutor. If you know a little French and you want to practice, you can practice with a French tutor. So again, if you want to have more time for school, more time for studying subjects, you can use that. But it's also really just about studying for your current classes, practicing for a test. So students will log in by going through Classlink. they'll find the paper app and they'll hit log in with Google. And then this is what it will look like for the students. So they can quickly just start typing a question here, hit the send button, and they'll be connected with a tutor. Or you pick their students' classes are preloaded. So we have them connected and here. So you would pick your biology class, your algebra class, whatever it is, and you'll ask a tutor. And so what it looks like is you click on finding a tutor. And since I was an English teacher, I'm going to pick this one. And I'm connected to a tutor. And so I just start typing. And then she'll type back. And this will go on for however long you want. And I'm just going to tell her what I'm doing. Okay, so the chat works like this. And what's also nice is you can, let me make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see. You have the option of sending a file. So if you took a screenshot of something that you're working on, let's say it was from your online textbook, again, great that we have those for some of our math classes. You could take a screenshot of that, you can post it here, and then you can add it and the tutor can help. Then you could also draw on the whiteboard and again, demonstrate whether it's for science or math or whatever it is you're working on, which will be awesome. And then you share it with them and they can help you. What I've seen is students will go on in the morning before class and study for math. You can say things like, I need to practice with exponents. Can you give me some math problems to practice with? So again, you don't even have to show up with questions. You could just have the subject you want to study and the tutor will help you. And then you also will have all of your chats are archived. So you'll have history of all of them. So you can go back and see all your sessions. The other thing I love about this, and I'm going to end the session so I don't bother her. I'm just going to hit it. I have to go. And you can give feedback and write a note. There is the essay review, and we've had a lot of students use this so far. And again, the more detail you ask the tutor in terms of like telling them what the assignment was, giving them the rubric, the better feedback you'll get, but you'll get a lot of great questions and things to think about. So you can attach your file. Typically it's 24 hours, but right now, it's college essay season. So a lot of students are using it for that, but you can upload just your thesis. You can upload a paragraph. You can upload your whole essay, a full report, a project, resume, anything at all in terms of writing. It could be from any of your classes, and then the tutor will get back to you and give you feedback. So it's important, again, that you give them as much direction as you can for essay review, and you'll get feedback. What I want to point out is that paper works with the Socratic method. So students are asked to think through what they already know about the subject to get help. So for example, I know that some students posted questions from an AP Euro study guide, and I was really curious how the tutor was going to help them with questions that were in the study guide. And what I saw was the student said, I need to know about this. And the tutor said, well, what did your teacher start with? And then the student goes, oh, well, they did this and this. And then the tutor goes, oh, well, did you also learn about this? How might they connect? And so it was that spark to help the learning. And I just find it phenomenal. So I highly encourage your student just to go on, or students, if you haven't tried it, you can definitely look at all your subjects. And if you ever get stuck, even if it's just a quick question, you can have them help you. Or again, if you want them to make up questions to help you study. And then the last thing for students that I don't know if you guys know about is you can create a study room and invite a tutor in. So you could create a study group with some of your friends and then work here in paper together. And then if you get stuck, the tutor can come in and solve the problem, which I think is just amazing. And I know some students have been kind of finding this fun for just chatting, but bringing the tutor in is kind of the goal. So just a reminder. And then very last thing for our students that have an alternate home language, Mandarin or Spanish, perhaps for our district, you can switch the program to tutor in your home language. But I also thought it would be really cool for our French and Spanish language students, they could tutor in Spanish or French to really strengthen their understanding. So just kind of an advanced option. And I know they're rolling out more languages, but those are what's there now. So that's paper, and I highly encourage you to try it out. It's available at all times. And what's super nice, so families, you feel okay with this, all of the tutors are part of the paper company. So they've been hired by them. They are not freelancers. They are mostly college graduates or in advanced college classes, and either working in education or wanted to be teachers, and paper then hired them. So there's a lot of different things, but they're all kind of vetted and background checks are done. And so again, the students can post anything at the end if they have questions. And then the tutors can also give notes to the teachers, letting them know how a session went, if a student really excelled or if they see somebody need more help. So we're really excited about this partnership. So I encourage you to check it out. Okay, so just a couple more things and then we are done for our night. Thank you for so many of you for sticking around. This has been a lot of content that I've been throwing at you, but hopefully you're finding quite a few things that are helpful. So last three things. GoGuardian is a tool that we have for students that is for Chromebook management when at school. So students, you're not going to love what I'm about to tell your parents if you're on the webinar with me. But some students need a little more guidance with kind of how they're using the internet at home. And GoGuardian now has a tool for that for parents to use. So again, sorry students, but it's okay. Sometimes we need guardrails and it's good for us. So parents, if you're suddenly super interested in helping your students stay focused and be on track, please click this link and check out GoGuardian. It will give you an app on your phone and you would have the ability to have a little bit more visibility into what your kids are doing. You can add some filters for your house and you can even pause the internet. So again, I feel terrible telling that to our students, but I know sometimes you need help and you need a break. So we want to offer this and just take a look. It's still a beta, so it's a rather new product. It's not, 100% solved for all the woes in the world related to distractions, but it is something that's a good conversation starter, and it is focused on kind of that education first kind of side of things that I like to approach things on versus an outright ban. So again, this is a good first step if you need some relief and want us to help you a little bit with kind of management at home. Know that that's an option. Okay, last two. I mentioned earlier that we have all of these Chrome extensions available for students in the web store. There's a Chrome web store. Some of them download games and other things and kind of get into mischief, but there are some that are really, really good. And this link here is for you to kind of evaluate what extensions you have. And again, some are helpful. Like we have some for Google Drive. We have some for Classlink. Again, they're meant to be a great tool. There are some that are distracting, although there are apps, extensions to help you with distractions. So I would encourage you to kind of check that out. But what I wanted to highlight tonight is I have two student groups who have built two extensions for the Chrome Web Store. The first, some of you might have heard me talk about, is the LCHS Go extension. And what this does is I have it installed here. It's a little bit tiny for you to see, but when I click on this, this is the bell schedule. And this was totally created by students. They started this last year. And what you do is it tells you kind of the current period that we're in, how many minutes until the next period, what time it is. And then if you click on the next screen, you can see the bell schedule. You can change the date. So this was really helpful when we were in, kind of real world school where we had schedules changing all the time, but you can also customize by grade level. So they added all the elementaries on here now. And then they also have notifications. So you can turn on notifications to be kind of alerted when classes are changing. And then what I also like about it is this little tiny icon, again, that's microscopic for you, will tell you how many minutes are left in the period. So this Go app is awesome. Parents, you can use this too to kind of help your students, and you can download it on your phone. If you go to, let me find it. I'll put the link for you kind of here. And then you can save it on your phone as a website. And then you can see the schedule on your phone, which is super nice. Because again, they built this for Chrome since the kids are on Chromebooks all the time or using another computer with a Chrome browser. So that one's awesome. Yeah, Paul, thank you. So extension is kind of another word for app because the way the Chromebooks work is you can't really download apps. They're just extensions in the Chrome browser. So they call them web apps, but yes, that's another great way to think of it. So you won't find it in the Apple App Store, but you would find it in the Chrome web store for their browser extensions or apps. So thank you for that question. The next one that I want to tell you about, this is brand new, and I have a cybersecurity team of students, and they just created Aspis, and this Aspis, I believe is the correct way to pronounce it. And this tool is going to be launching soon for our students, and it pretty much just helps you verify that you're not getting any phishing or spam emails by giving you a little indicator in your email. So if it's all good, you're going to see this check that is somebody you can trust. And if it's a red exclamation, it's like, oh, watch out, this may not be good. So we're going to be launching this to all of our students and teachers this week. It's Cybersecurity Month, so we're really excited that they got this done. They've been testing it for about 6 months, and it's really, really cool. And I'm excited that students built this. And so that's a new thing that's in the web store that our students and teachers are going to be able to use more. So we're really excited about that tool. So any coders listening, the Chrome apps and extensions are a great way to kind of solve problems for our school. And we've got 2 groups that are working on that right now. All right, my last note for you is about our connection issues. So we know this is probably the greatest challenge we have during distance learning. Outside of this, sometimes just doesn't work for every single student, but the worst thing of all is our internet connectivity issues. So we have this guide for you. There are a ton of resources on here. This is kind of like the cheat sheet that we use when we're trying to diagnose things. So the student tech interns, along with my tech team, created this guide. These are just all the things to try when nothing else is working. So we have this here for you, and you can, my big note from this is kind of restarting your computer every day makes a huge difference when you have freed up memory and everything is ready for the day. But again, there's tons of options on here. The other one that I think is really good is, again, checking your extensions to make sure there isn't anything that could be kind of eating up memory or processor. So you can do that. And then the other one that we've heard that really, really helps is if you are seeing kind of internet lag, rather than having everything on gallery view where you see every single student, changing it to speaker view. So it's just one camera, that's one video feed that's processing versus like 36. That can make a big difference. So there are a lot of tips on here, even kind of downgrading the quality of your video a little bit. So all the things that we kind of do to help troubleshoot, that's there for you. And then on the bottom, definitely report any outages or things that aren't working to Spectrum. If your modem is over a year old, they'll send you a new one. So something to consider, because it'll work better on their kind of improved network. And then if you have had any issues in the last couple of months, please click the link here and report it. I'm working with the city council on a subcommittee for broadband improvement in our city. And we've created a heat map showing the most impacted areas of LC so that we can get that to Spectrum when they're doing their infrastructure planning of like, what are the most impacted parts of town? And it's definitely showing up. There's certain areas that have a poorer connection than others. So anything you can do to report on here will help us help you. Okay, so those are all my big tips. As always, for tech support, you can go to help.lcusd.net. That's what I showed you where I found that video. I'm sorry, where I found the guide about Classlink and Google. You can call our help hotline anytime during the day. And here are my homework notes for you. So first, you're going to check to make sure Classlink's working and the resources are all connected. You want to change your Google Classroom notifications to make that a better experience. Open up your Gmail and just archive everything. If you haven't been using it, just clean it out and start fresh. Create some labels and filters to really get it under control. That'll help you going forward. Start in Google Drive and start to kind of move everything from past years into archive folders so you can have more organized. One tip I forgot to tell you, if you need to open up a document really fast, just go to docs.doc.new and it will just open up a Google Doc. So that's a great shortcut. I demoed paper.co for you, so go there and try that out for homework help. Evaluate your Chrome extensions or apps to make sure you have just what you need and get rid of anything that could be bogging down your Chromebook. I've got the connectivity guide for you. And then on those topics, put a Post-it note by your computer that says restart before class. And if you're using a Chromebook, it is Control-Shift-QQ, and that will restart it. So I'll type that here for you. It's super easy. Control plus Shift plus QQ. And we tell the little kids that it sounds like a spaceship. So QQ, Control Shift plus QQ. And then for parents, put a note by your computer that says help.lcusd.net so you can reach out to us whenever you have questions. Okay, it is 7:59. That was a whirlwind. I talked so much. I want to take any questions that you have. I won't leave you. So please post any questions. And if you want to talk live, raise your hand. I'm going to stop recording and then I'll take live questions from you. So let me do that.